Hi there. We're getting set up at the playground to take a Pilates class. Let's start our class in a hinge bridge position. We'll lay on our back, feeling our shoulders in the back of our head, our heels against the floor. Knees are bent up, feet separated about hip width distance. Let's go ahead and push the hips up, keeping the knees tracking over the toes. Lower, tap the tip of the tailbone down. As the hips lift up, you're pushing the arms into the mat and then lowering to tap the tip of the tailbone down. Good. Keep the pelvis lifted on this next one. I want you to think, spiral that belly button down and then keep that energy with the arms pushing into the floor. Let's begin to lift the right ankle up and lower it down. Now that left ankle is going to lift and lower it down. We'll continue alternating the ankle lifts from right to left, keeping the ankle stacked right over the toes as one ankle elevates and then drops. Let's do 2 more on each side. Now I'll have you pause with both ankles lifted. Arms stay strong against the floor. Let's begin to pulse the hips down and up an inch. Down and up an inch. Keeping the strength in your shoulders, the strength in the back of your hips, and keeping those knees tracking straight forward. Visualize pressing those knees toward the center of the room. Go ahead and lower the heels down and then articulate all the way back down. We'll progress and go into our articulation. So I want you to keep the knees as they are. You're going to tuck, peel, squeeze, and lift the back of the hips off of the mat. Knees stay straight forward. Now we're going to elevate the ankles as we did before. If keeping the ankles elevated does not feel good for you, then you'll just lower the heels down. We'll do our hundreds from our bridge position. Pelvis stays lifted. We'll hover the arms away from the floor, keep them long, and we'll begin to pump those arms from the shoulders. Visualize dribbling 2 basketballs. We'll inhale for 5, exhale for 5. Inhale 2, 3, 4, exhale 2, 3, 4. 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 Continue pumping, continue breathing. Keep the chin lifted away from the chest. Good. Keep the glutes engaged, belly button active. Be drawn back into the spine. 2 more breath sequences. Good. Now stabilize the hips, press the arms into the mat, and we'll slowly melt down into the floor. Let's let the knees bend in towards the chest. Give the low back and the hamstrings some relief by tucking the knees in towards the chest and giving the shins a hug. Rock from side to side if that feels good. Butterfly bridge. The soles of the feet are going to meet and the hips and knees open. We'll keep the arms long as they have been in our previous bridge movements. Go ahead and push the soles of the feet together, and then we'll float the hips up. Lower tap the tip of the tailbone down, and let the hips rise up again. Continue sending energy between the feet to activate the inner thighs and the thighs as the hips lift and lower. Let's do this 5 more times. And then we'll keep the pelvis lifted here. You'll hold this isometric butterfly bridge for 4. In 3, in 2, go ahead and lower the hips down. Knees come together, inner thighs come together. We'll imprint the spine here, so you're going to seal the low back against the mat. Arms are going to stay stretched by your hips. Let's lift one leg to tabletop and then the other leg to meet it. Arms are going to extend past the head as the legs extend out to a diagonal. We'll pause in that hollow hold position before circling the arms in toward the hips. You'll bend the knees back to table. Arms stretch as the legs stretch. Knees bend as the arms circle to the hips. Optional progressions, keeping the head, neck, and shoulders lifted as the arms circle and extend. Let's do 3 more. Last one. Go ahead and safely lower the feet down and lower the head down. We'll go into our frog plank here. So I'll have you kneel onto all fours, hands and knees, wrists underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. Your ankles are going to cinch together, so you're going to glue the insides of those heels together and keep the feet separated in that Pilates V. My feet are flexed on the floor. My hands are going to go down underneath my shoulders. Go ahead and hover those knees away from the floor into that hovering 4-point kneel position. Now, you'll extend the legs and push the hips up towards the sky. Now, soften the knees, stop the knees under the hips. Good. Extend, push the hips up towards the sky, lengthening the legs, and then bend those knees, stop the knees underneath the hips. So I like to visualize going into a pike as my legs stretch up, wrapping the hamstrings in towards midline, and then bending the knees, stopping them consciously underneath my hips as they return to that start position. Let's aim for 2 more. Last one. Soften the knees, let them drop. Child's pose. Knees separate, big toes come together. We'll flip on over to our right hip and our right elbow. We'll go into side lying work. Side lying bicycles. So send the right elbow down and then stack the left hip over the left hip over the right hip. Let's start by lifting that right leg in front of the hip. So you're in that tabletop position. Lengthen the leg in front of you, kicking the heel forward. You'll keep the leg long here, sweep it back, and then bend it into table. Lengthen the leg forward. Keep the leg long as you sweep the leg back so it's straight in front of the hip, and then you'll bend the knee to table. Let's do 2 more. Last one. Go ahead and bend that knee in. Now you'll externally rotate from that top hip. Knee and ankles angle up towards the sky. Go ahead and lengthen the leg out for that donkey kick. Energy through that top heel. Now bend the knee back in. Lengthen and push the heel away from your body. Engage the backside of that hip. And then bend the knee back to table. Let's aim for 5 more. Bending and extending the leg. Visualize creating space underneath that top hip. Last 2. And 1. Go ahead and bend the knee into table and then lower the feet down. We'll do a quick tricep dip on our playground equipment. So I'll have you sit up, either find a slide, sit on the end of that slide, or find a step, sit on the end of that step. With the heels of the hand, either towards the edge of that step or the edge of the slide, you're going to bend the knees to tabletop position. Keep the heels light on the floor. Hover the hips away from that slide or away from that step. As you bend the elbows, allow the pelvis to drop down towards the floor just a few inches, keeping the elbows right underneath the shoulders as they bend. Now you'll lengthen and press the arms back into that long position, engaging the triceps and lengthening those arms. Good. Let's do about 5 more here. Bending the elbows, keeping them underneath the shoulders, and then lengthening and pushing into the heels of the hands as the arms stretch back up. Last 2. And 1. Go ahead and sit back onto your playground equipment. We'll turn around and go into our modified plank with our tricep extension here. So hands are either going to go on the playground slide or the playground step. Shoulders right over the wrists, legs stretched out behind you. Separate the feet about hip width distance or slightly wider if you need some assistance in your plank. Elbows are going to bend straight underneath the shoulders, and you're going to lengthen and push the arms into the equipment to lengthen and press the arms out. Elbows bend in like you're doing a push-up, and then you're going to lengthen and push the chest away as the arms lengthen. Let's do 4 more. Keeping the spine, the pelvis still. Last one. Go ahead and stand back up. We'll get set up for side lying bicycles on our left side. Left elbow, left hip is going to lay down. Chest stays wide, hips stay stacked. We'll begin to bicycle that top leg. So the leg is going to lift to a tabletop position in front of the hip. Now you're going to extend the leg forward. Keep the leg long, sweep it back so it's right underneath that hip joint. Now bring the knee back in front of the hip, perfect tabletop position, and then lengthen and kick the heel away from the body. You'll sweep that leg back so it's right in front of the hip, and then bend the knee back in. Let's go for 4 more. Stay conscious of that underbody, keeping the bottom of the ribs wrapped and tight to keep that spine supported and stable. Last one. Go ahead and bend the knee in, tabletop the leg. Now externally rotate from that top hip. Knee and ankles bend up towards the sky. Extend the leg and then bend the knee in front of the hip. Push the heel away from you, keeping energy in the heel, flexing the feet back, and then bend the knee. Good. Keep up the good work. You're going to do 2 more. Last one. Go ahead and bend the knee in, lower the foot down. We'll lay in our prone position. Prone position means on your belly, on your chest. I'm going to have you start with the elbows bent, the fingertips, palms face down on your forehead. You're going to seal the pelvis against the floor. Push that pubic bone down into the mat. Now we'll use the upper back and the posterior chain to lift the chest away, peel the spine away from the floor into that extension, keeping the pelvis still and stable. Now slowly lower back down. You're going to peel the chest away from the floor, keep the pelvis strong and stable, and then lower that chest down. As you peel the chest away from the floor, if it feels good for you to engage the glutes and float the legs away from the floor, you can add in that progression. Last one. Good. Stretch, stretch, stretch into that extension, and then you'll lower the legs and the forehead down. Let's add in a progression. I'm going to have you lay on your right ear, so you're gazing across your left shoulder. You're still laying in that prone position. You just have that rotated gaze. Your hands are going to interlace beneath the low back, and I want you to hover the hands away from your hips. Arms stay long here. Now you'll extend the spine. Gaze is going to drift down towards the floor. Collarbone stays wide. Go ahead and lower the chest back down, and then that left ear is going to drop. So you're gazing across the opposite shoulder now. Lower the hands down to reset, and then allow the hands to float away from the hips. Use the shoulders, the upper back, those glutes, to peel the spine into extension. Gaze is going to drift back down to the floor, and then you'll lower the chest down again, switching your gaze to look across the opposite shoulder. Let's do 3 more. If it felt good for you to add in that progression, elevating the legs, using the back side of the hips to add in that extra challenge, go ahead and add that in. Last one. Go ahead and melt back into the floor. You're going to let the hips sink back over those heels. Child's pose position. Let's allow the knees to open and the big toes come together. Allow the chest to fall through the arms and the forehead to drop through those hands. Thank you for joining us for our playground class today. Remember to subscribe and continue to tune in on Thursdays at 8 a.m. Pacific time to see new videos. Thank you.